And welcome back to the front page this morning. I am Dara Starr Tucker, and we have Miss Lori Gay in the house. We have Miss Lori Gay in the building. If you are a regular KJLH listener, you probably know her name, maybe her face as well. She is a longtime supporter of the station. She is the president and the chief executive officer of the Neighborhood Housing Authority. Welcome to the front page, Miss Lori Gay.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
I want to tell the folks a bit about you before we get into our conversation this morning about the ongoing Altadena fire recovery efforts. We're, of course, commemorating the one-year anniversary of the Altadena Eaton Fires, and we're calling our coverage From Ashes to Hope. 1 year after the Eaton Fires, this coverage is being brought to you by our generous sponsor, Chase Bank. Ms. Lori R. Gay is the president and chief executive officer of Neighborhood Housing Services of Los Angeles, NHS, and she's affiliated and its affiliated organizations, including NHS Neighborhood Lending Services and NHS Neighborhood Redevelopment Corporation. Together, these entities drive nonprofit lending, housing development, and neighborhood revitalization throughout Los Angeles County. With more than 40 years of experience in community development, Gay has dedicated her career to rebuilding disinvested communities and expanding pathways to community ownership and economic stability. Since 1984, NHS has helped to develop, rehabilitate, or finance more than 28,500 housing and commercial units, placed millions of families on the road to home ownership, and reinvested over $10 billion into underserved neighborhoods. Gay currently serves as a board chair of the National Black Community Developers Group and sits on multiple financial and housing advisory boards. She holds an MBA from Pepperdine University and a bachelor's degree from UC Davis. So welcome once again, Miss Lori Gay, to the front page.
Thank you.
Glad to have you. Well, Miss Lori Gay, we know that when it comes to rebuilding, in terms of what is happening right now in Altadena, it really goes beyond rebuilding of homes, and we're really talking about the rebuilding of lives that we are engaged in right now. Can you talk to us about what you're encountering on the ground right now? What is the situation in general in terms of just the morale and the state of mind, the state of people's hearts in Altadena that you're working with?
Yes, I'd say, a year in, people can lose hope. Because I'd guesstimate, because you can't know exact numbers, that easily 80% of families are not on a path that brings them back home this year. And for sure, more than half of that may not be back next year. So it's, as you think about a 3-year span, I think that's when people start looking at their situation and getting less excited about where they are. And so morale can be down, right? On the other hand, there's still a good sense, I'd say, of many families who look at a year, know they lost everything, and are saying, we're still here. And we could be gone and things could be worse for us. So there's this interesting continuum, and the truth of the financial component of it in a rebuild effort is that there are resources that didn't come. Resources that didn't arrive. Many people are facing FEMA and SBA shortages. They're still pending documents. They were declined. The Cal Assist program that the state put forward for homeowners for mortgage relief has not spent all its money by any stretch. So I think those kinds of things impact recovery. And our job is to try to help sift through all that with every client, every family that wants to work with us. And spend their time figuring it out. We're here to help.
Yeah. I think it's just a tragedy that someone could go through something so traumatic and still be dealing with housing insecurity and possibly foreclosure risk. How many of these folks would you say, what percentage of these folks that experienced losses last year would you think right now are dealing with either just housing insecurity or the potential of foreclosure?
Well, very different things post-disaster. So housing insecurity looks like, what is your interim housing situation? And many people in the Eaton Fire zone in particular were underinsured. The Palisades wasn't great either. They've estimated over 50% of the Palisades homeowners had the California Fair Plan. So you're not looking at decent insurance if you're on the Fair Plan. It's meant to be high risk, low coverage.
Right.
So I think you have a high population of seniors in Altadena. 15-25%. I hear varying numbers all the time. Many of them had paid off their homes. So they didn't keep insurance because their thought was, I paid my home off, so I'm good. And of course, you're not. You know, your home can still burn like many did, or there's some other type of tragedy or disaster. So I think that the key is that interim situation, which insurance will usually cover as a part of your insurance coverage as a homeowner. Many do not have that. So they're renting. If they're unaware of the forbearance related legislation and rules that allow them to forbear, then they're still paying on a mortgage and renting. So those are the things we step up and get loud about, right? And say, you need the information. Let us help you work with your lender to forbear your mortgage. There was state law and then certainly federal law in place. Most lenders will forbear. It's just for how long. Most will forbear for at least up to a year, but you have to do it each quarter. You have to renew and prove that you still need it. They don't care that you had a disaster, and that's just the trash of it. You know the disaster happened. Just give everybody a year, right?
Yeah.
Then we had AB 238, which passed in the legislature, which added a year. So many of us have talked to families about, you got at minimum a year you don't have to pay your mortgage. If it could be up to a couple of years, then why wouldn't you take that? Because in a rebuild scenario, you've got to think 1 to 2 years on average. I mean, that's normal if you can do it. The other thing I'd say is if they didn't have proper insurance coverage, meaning replacement, 100% replacement coverage, then they're looking at the money that you're supposed to live off of, that personal piece that your insurer will provide, not being as much as it could be. And so the rent portion is where we're hearing from a lot of pre-renters, right? People who were renting before the fires and homeowners that they're stuck because they just didn't have adequate coverage. So I think that's the money that people want. And they want grants to help pay for rent right now. Scarce resources is true every day. So most of that money has been exhausted from whoever it's coming from. Philanthropy did a huge effort to put in money to that interim housing space, and just those funds get exhausted very quickly. So we see a lot of desperate people, and it's difficult because they may not know the mechanics, and they then may not have the resources. So a number of us, we run a community development financial institution, many groups like ours, and then some of your local social service groups were giving away grants for rent. And it just went fast. We had a couple $1 million we donated to people. And it was gone 2 weeks, 2 weeks,
Wow.
max 3. Pipeline was full, still full. And so I think it's difficult because there's just no free lunch anywhere. The other thing I'd say is that there's still people in plan check now. So our emphasis, we started a coalition called the Restore the Legacy LA Coalition. It's over 100 businesses, organizations working together. We're technicians, most of us. And so it's architects, planners, interior designers, general contractors, and then finance people like us, HUD-approved housing counselors. Great team. And we've been doing multiple events to just be available to people at no charge to help them technically, right? Every event I've participated in, I start with saying, this is a horrific time, but there's hope for you. And teams of experts being available at no charge is a miracle. You're going to pay somebody if you're building a house, inevitably. But getting the right advice, 99% of families in America don't build a house. You buy an existing home. That's normal. You walk into an existing commercial space to run your business, and then you lease. Those are normal things. So when you talk about building from the ground up, whether it's prefab, using an accessory dwelling unit, living in an RV while your home is built, whatever it is, you're going to have some trouble because you don't know anything about it. And getting people to recognize that it's okay to not know is also, it's a journey. And that they're not expected to know everything, but they don't know who to trust. So I think we've had phenomenal success in caring for people over the last year because we're focused on this notion of we're groups that you can trust because this is all we do, right? And we're not here to take anything from you. And everyone in our organizations has slashed their fees. So even if you decide you want to use someone, the fees are going to be highly discounted. If you need to borrowing from a group like ours, along with your lender, we're going to come at everything 2, 3, 4% below market, right? Fixed rate. And if we have grants, we're going to give them. So I think that that's been a phenomenal space. I find hope in that. NHS has been responding to disasters since 1992.
Wow.
And starting with the Rodney King riots, civil unrest, whatever you want to call it. It was a mess. And responding to that as people burned down our neighborhoods. We didn't burn down everything ourselves. It was a blend. People were driving in from somewhere everywhere, looting, right? If you lived through that time, you know all that stuff. So it's really about how do we help each other? How do we not take from people? Give more than we take should be our motto. Every single person who serves, how do I give more? And I think we're saying that very loudly. The other thing we're saying super loud is do no harm. If you don't know what you're doing, back off. Don't get in the middle of people's lives like this at this traumatic of a time, especially Black folks. We know better, so let's do better.
Yeah. We are talking this morning with Ms. Lori Gay, who is the president and CEO of LA's Neighborhood Housing Authority. If you'd like to get in touch with her organization, you can do that in a number of ways. nhslacounty.org. That's nhslacounty.org. You can give them a call at 213-381-2862. That's 213-381-2862. She is working on helping walk folks through the process of recovery. It's a very kind of tangled process at times, and something that can be very, very difficult to navigate, which is why an organization like the Neighborhood Housing Authority exists. Because, as I said, not only have these homes been lost, but folks' lives have been turned upside down, Ms. Gay. And what are you encountering in terms of folks maybe hesitance or resistance to even move forward with the recovery process? I mean, I know when traumatic things happen, at times you want to retreat. You want to go inside of yourself. Sometimes you just want to run away from the problem instead of actually confronting it or dealing with it. But if you are nearing foreclosure, there are obviously warning signs that are happening, that are taking place that you should not ignore. So can you talk to us about some of the warning signs that you might be in danger of foreclosure if you are in that state of avoidance, which a lot of us can encounter when we have endured traumatic events?
Sure. I think the key is you signed a contract with a lender, whatever type it was, good or bad. You owe the money.
Yeah.
Life happening, divorce, death, disaster strikes. Your lender's contract is what it is. And we saw this in the foreclosure crisis in 2008 to 12. And people wanted to blame the lender for the contract they signed. And we knew at that time many people signed contracts that were inappropriate. They weren't sustainable. In some cases, they were irresponsible. And they wanted what they wanted, right? And the lenders responded to that and overcharged in many ways or wrote up contracts that were bad. All of that aside, right now, the Altadena area had what we call a conventional book of business, a number of modest income to high middle class. So lenders were lending there. This wasn't a space where you only had hard money lenders or something like that. Someone wanted to borrow hard money, that generally was a choice they made. Because there was a lot of conventional, typical big names we all know and small lending, a number of community banks lending. So as you look at that, you know that it was a stable community in terms of cash being available for homeownership. And I'd say you want to keep that, right? So if a person is facing now this tragedy and looks at it and says, I'll get to my lender because, I need food on the table. I got to still get to work. If their business they worked at didn't burn down and there's disruption there, and so they start ranking what's critical. Well, the mortgage has got to be your number one or two thing, no matter what's going on in life. I'm a preacher's kid, pastor's wife, so I say pay God first. He's number one. Pay your mortgage second, though. Don't miss it because you owe. So keeping that contract matters. If, in fact, in tragedy, then all of life is out of whack, that's where the forbearance comes in because it puts the payments at the back of your mortgage for whatever time period so that you can have a little bit of a break. If you don't do that and you don't pay, you're going to go into default. And those delinquencies, a default notice, hurts your credit, hurts your future. It's not worth it.
Yeah.
So I think that that's the way we have to think. Our job is to get the information out, right, to people and say, no one's giving you a break. They're not doing that. You have to ask for the forbearance. You have to apply for it. And don't believe because they told you by phone you're done. You need to see in writing that your contract has been changed in some way. So I think that the HUD-approved counselors that we have certainly on our team, and there's 8 other agencies working with us, some from Northern California who fly in to sit with people and work with them at these events and then keep up with them later kind of thing. A bunch of us are available. It's a free service. And even if you're unsure about whether you're in trouble, we can look at your documents. We can get on the phone with you and your lender kind of thing and help walk through the situation that can work better for you.
Yeah.
And I just think it's a phenomenal time to take advantage of solid help. There's systems in place to protect homeowners, but you have to access it. You have to ask. And if you don't ask and provide the proper documents and then get something in writing that verifies it, you're stuck.
Yeah.
And so get unstuck. That's the message.
Yeah.
And don't sit there and think that someone's coming. They're not.
Yeah. Well, let's say that someone has pushed past that point and they were not able to get unstuck and they allowed their mortgage to go into foreclosure. Are there options that exist for those homeowners who now are in a state of foreclosure? Do you provide counseling and help for folks who are already there?
Yeah, it's going to be foreclosure prevention right until the day there's a sale. And there were other measures that were passed last year to try to prevent sale of homes due to foreclosure and delinquency in the fire zones. So there's those protections exist, but again, if you don't say nothing, you're going to be in a problem. And so at one of our events in December, I met 3 seniors who basically, they had basic coverage. I don't know how deep it was because I wasn't in the middle of that part of their conversation. They talked to me after I spoke at the event and kind of ran a little workshop to say, all I did was tell my insurance that my house burned down, Mrs. Gay. And then they got me in an apartment. And that's all I did. I said, well, did you apply for FEMA? No, I didn't do any lines. I didn't do any programs. I didn't know what to do. I said, well, we need to get to work then. You've missed all the deadlines. We can see if there's some form of appeal for you. And I said, each of y'all, because they came up to me kind of within 2 minutes of each other. So I talked to all 3 of them and I said, get with the HUD-approved counselor. They're sitting right there. You don't have to pay anything. Let them walk you through possibilities. So that possibility thinking is key. And plugging into that is key. Everyone has their own financial situation. No financial situation's the same. And that distinction should take pride away. It should take guilt away. It should take shame away. It's like being born. You're the only one like you in all the world. So what's your problem? Do you and make life great, right? With money, it's the same thing. Your situation is yours and managing to it is your job. If you're stuck, ask for help and let the right people, not just any people, because the scams, we'll talk about that,
Right.
I hope,
Of
before
course.
we get off. But scams are real. They're prevalent when there's been disaster. So asking for the right stuff and saying, I don't know what I'm doing. Can y'all help me figure it out? We get to hear that every day. It's a privilege and an honor to serve.
Yeah. Well, that was actually going to be my next question for you. These predatory lenders, misinformation. There are shark-infested waters, really, when a disaster happens. I know this because I lived in Nashville in 2010 during the flood that happened there, and I saw, exactly what happened at that time, and it was kind of insane. There were all kinds of folks from without who came to Nashville, and the city has really never been the same since. There is a lot of rebuilding that happened after that, and the demographics of the city changed greatly, particularly some areas of the city that changed greatly. So how does NHS help to protect residents from these predatory lenders and misinformation during this type of crisis?
All right. Well, you try to combat evil with good, right? And there's just always some people who are takers. And there's a place that's not in heaven for them. That's how I look at it. You want to take, there's a space for you. But knowing that, then our job is to get good information to the public. We're starting, I guess it's Monday, an anti-scam campaign, just an awareness campaign, telling people they can call for help, and flooding social media with, there was an old campaign we used to do called Don't Borrow Trouble. In this case, it's not paying for all kinds of things that should be readily available. So there's one scam we were talking with some people about yesterday that happened at one of the local parishes where a number of families who only spoke Spanish in the Altadena area, they just live in Altadena, but they only spoke Spanish. At this parish, were told they needed to pay $40,000 to get a list of general contractors who could repair their home. 9 people later, we heard about it.
Wow.
And they had paid. And, stuff like that seems insane to us. But as one of my coworkers said, if the only language you speak in is whatever it is, you don't speak English, you have trust and fear that lead a portion of your life because you're not in the majority. And listening to friends and family is your trusted resource, your neighbor. And if everybody else is doing it, you're thinking it's going somewhere. So you think about a scam that's that egregious, right? Most of the scams we're hearing about are with general contractors and people overpaying or handymen, things like that. And they're paying for things. They feel desperate. They feel like I got to just get this or that removed from my lot, or I've got to get this set up so I can get going. And my neighbor paid this person, and they're giving like 50% as a deposit. Things like that or no, right? There's all kind of rules. And so being a servant that works to protect and serve, I think information is king, and then it's actual solutions and working with people and the public advocates, your nonprofit legal services groups, to be able to undo some of the things that have been done is a key service to the community. Any entity that's a community developer, like many of us are, is focused on trying to make sure people never borrow wrong or that they don't engage in activities. I was around after the 94 earthquake, so I'll date myself a bit. And people were paying people who were walking up to them off the street to haul away their chimneys, and they'd give $500 and then the sucker would not, show up anymore. They just gone. And so I think that this is a normal thing, but it's not acceptable. And sitting with families, sitting with some of those seniors I've met in particular, right, who are vulnerable, and saying to them, it's okay, let us connect you with the proper people, or if there's something we can do directly, particularly if it's property focused or money focused, we are really after it. And so we'll just keep that going. That's what's going to happen. We're going to, all this year, talk about scams, talk about avoiding them, work with people on their individual problems they may be having.
Yeah. We are talking this morning with Ms. Lori Gay, who is the President and Chief Executive Officer of LA's Neighborhood Housing Authority. If you want to learn more about what her organization is doing to assist in recovery efforts after the Altadena fires, you can get in contact with them at nhslacounty.org. That's nhslacounty.org. You can also give them a call at 213-381-2862. That's 213-381-2862. This is part of our ongoing coverage From Ashes to Hope, sponsored by Chase Bank. The Neighborhood Housing Service is providing free housing counseling, foreclosure prevention, loan assistance, and legal guidance to help Altadena families rebuild and remain housed after the fires. We're going to take a brief break and come back with more of our conversation and hopefully your calls. You can give us a call at 310-520-KJLH if you have questions for Ms. Lori Gay of the Neighborhood Housing Authority. 310-520-KJLH is the number to call. I'm sure that she would be happy to answer any and all questions that you have. Right, Lori?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. We're going to take a break and come back with more of our conversation with Ms. Lori Gay of the Neighborhood Housing Authority right after this. Well, good morning and welcome back to the front page. I am Dara Starr Tucker, and we are here this morning talking with Miss Lori Gay, who is the President and Chief Executive Officer of LA's Neighborhood Housing Authority. You can get in touch with Lori's organization, who is helping with the recovery efforts after the Altadena fires. This is part of our ongoing coverage of the 1-year anniversary of the Eaton Fires. We're calling this From Ashes to Hope, 1 year after the Eaton Fires. This coverage is brought to you by Chase Bank. You can get in contact with Lori Gay's organization, the Neighborhood Housing Authority, at nhslacounty.org. That's nhslacounty.org. Or you can give them a call at 213-381-2862. That's 213-381-2862. You can also give Lori a call this morning if you have questions for her about the recovery process and the role that her organization, the Neighborhood Housing Authority, is playing in the recovery efforts. You can give us a call here this morning at 310-520-KJLH. That's 310-520-KJLH if you have questions or comments for Ms. Lori Gay this morning. The Neighborhood Housing Service is providing free counseling, foreclosure prevention, loan assistance, and legal guidance to help Altadena families rebuild and remain housed after the fires. Well, Ms. Lori Gay, I want to ask you, we've been talking about homeowners for the most part this morning, but as I understand it, NHS is expanding its workshops to begin to include renters in this conversation as well. So why would you say it's important to make this expansion right now and address evictions and landlord assistance?
Well, I'd say we've always been talking to renters. You know, NHS is known across the region as the largest affordable homeownership provider. We deal with more renters than we do homeowners because we're focused on getting families on the road to homeownership and getting on a path that's sustainable for their budget and their lifestyle. So we see, 7,000 to 10,000 people a year. And of that, 85% might be renters that are thinking about buying in some way. My number may be a little high on the percentages, but it's the chunk, right? The big number. So our renter related homebuyer workshop, the first one of the year, had 100 and some odd people signed up just to even be online and hear about it. And those numbers don't mean anything to me. The outcomes do, right? And that people still see homeownership as a cherished value. With the Eaton Fire Zone area in particular, we now have the Edison settlement. Edison doesn't pay us. I don't have a name or interest in their business. But we've said to people, in the fire zone, the Eaton Fire Zone, you have opportunity to review the opportunity. And if it doesn't work for you, do what you're going to do. But the renters in particular, being able to be paid some type of settlement for losing everything in the fires is an interesting thought. And we know some renters who have applied for up to $600,000. I don't know what they're going to get. I just know what some of their numbers are. Now, you think about getting a one-time amount like that. Most renters throughout the country are uninsured. That's not abnormal. They just don't think about it. Why would you pay for Allstate or somebody and you're a renter? People think that's a homeowner thing to do. The renter's insurance, of course, is widely available. If you didn't have it and you face disaster, what do you have? Nothing. So I think we've said to people, you need to think about it if you live in the Eaton Fire zone. The settlement offer was written primarily for those who are uninsured, and then underinsured is the next level. So we're doing special outreach starting the end of this month to renters to really say, you need to consider all your opportunities. If this is your chance to buy and become a homeowner because someone else may sell their lot, or that your family is building differently on their parcel, this is your chance to participate in that. The very first land that we banked, as people talk about it now, we don't think about land banking as a developer. We focused on, we grab up what's a good deal and we hold it. And that's normal in real estate if you have some resources to do it. So the very first lot in Altadena that we bought was in partnership with Michelle Williams, who many of you have seen on screen. Hi, Shell. And she had a landlord. She was a renter. And her landlord offered to sell the property to her where she had lived. And she called. We had met in our team with her families. And we bought it with her in mind, and we're holding it. And she's going through the coaching and the financial prep to become a homeowner and then buy that lot back from NHS and build a home there. So I think she's picking out which type of home she wants now, right?
Wow.
We're not in a rush. We're not going to be weird. We're going to help her get whatever money she needs to get, right? There are grants and loans for families all the time. The money comes and goes. Is it the county? Is it a private sector lender? You know, who has money? And working through that and figuring out your team for affordable home ownership is a very big deal. Again, most people don't know all that stuff. It's foreign to them. So going to class is a big deal. My mother-in-law was 72 years old when she bought her first home, and NHS helped her.
Wow.
And God rest her soul, she died at 98 in that house, fully paid off. And she didn't know the mechanics of it. And to hear her talk, she was part of the great migration, you know, working her way west. And she was a seamstress for 40 years, went on welfare, went back to school, got her RN license, came off welfare, and worked another 30-some years in healthcare. And she would tell you, I just never thought about buying. I was too busy working. And so some people are in the space where they don't even consider it. If you sit there and say, there's no way it can happen for me in Altadena, I may have been born and raised there, I may work there, or I know people there, I've always wanted to live there, whatever the details are, at least take the workshops, right? Get the financial coach for free and get the work done. It's work to be a homeowner. To become one and to stay one is work. You got to know what you're doing. Stay out of foreclosure, right? And so we want to avoid the flippers, as we call them, and the people who want to just buy land in Altadena and then sit on it for a minute and try to flip it for a little something else. That's who groups like ours are standing against. We're not interested in that kind of activity in our community. And if you look at New Orleans, hit 20 years last year since their disaster. Many spaces in the lower Ninth Ward are not back. And it doesn't look as, beautiful as we'd like it in any way, shape, or form. We can do better here. And it's not to degrade anything there. The resources didn't come favorably to them either. So it's how do we stand together to attract more resources, build the pipeline of buyers, right? And the second property we bought was from a senior, and she wanted to move to a mobile home park. She didn't have family to pass some of her wealth on to. So we bought her land and we've held it. We'll work to put a prefab home on that lot this year and sell it to a capable buyer, right? The other side of it is, as people come back, they may want to share their wealth with family or others, and the senior may live in an ADU and have a nice new something, and the family can live in the front house that gets rebuilt. We see that all over South LA. It's going on in the Black community every day. And so life together is what we're talking about. And getting back home can look differently. You want a team helping you to figure that out. Mm-hmm. And I think renters are right there. And if they have financial resources available and that team to help them figure out how to make it happen for them, they'll have success.
Yeah. We are talking this morning with Ms. Lori Gay, who is the president and CEO of LA's Neighborhood Housing Authority. Her organization is helping walk folks through the recovery and rebuilding process 1 year after the Eaton Fires. You can get a hold of them at nhslacounty.org. That's nhslacounty.org, or at 213-381-2862. That's 213-381-2862. I assume you all are on social media as well, Ms. Gay.
Absolutely.
I'm at NHS LA County.
Right.
We'll try that on Instagram and Facebook. You can find them on, I'm sure, on any social media platforms that you look for. Yes. We are going to go to a couple of calls this morning. We have Carmen on line 1 who has a question or has a comment for Ms. Gay this morning. Good morning, Carmen, and welcome to the front page.
Good morning. Thank you for taking my call. I just wanted to thank you, Ms. Gay, for the work that you do in the community, the passion that you have for helping people. A few years ago, I went to a meeting that you all hosted in LA where you were telling people they could use part of their house as an Airbnb as an option to selling it or extra income and things like that. And I've worked with a few contractors, and it is hard to know who to trust. So I just really appreciate your organization for having a heart for the people and for what you do. And I just wanted to say thank you for that.
Thank you, Carmen. Appreciate that.
Wonderful. Thank you for calling this morning, Carmen. We're going to go to Wendy on line 2. Good morning, Wendy, and welcome to the front page.
Hi, excuse me. Good morning. Thank you for taking my call, and thank you, Ms. Gay, for giving such great information. We moved out to California in 1963, August of 63. My parents bought their first house in Altadena in 64, and then another one like in 70, 71, although they don't own them anymore. Altadena will always be my home. So I still go out there every month or so just to see what's going on. I heard on the news, it was really weird that more houses are in the process of being built in Altadena than in Palisades, which really shocked me. But I went up to the premier salon of Altadena. It was always the premier salon up there. And I talked to somebody who will remain nameless, but I knew Magic Johnson gave money. I was told that Beyonce, when I was there, gave money. But nobody knew anybody black who got any grant money at all. And the demographics have been changing in Altadena for years. And I still go by the house that my dad owned and talked to somebody who lived there, and they confirmed, it's been changing. It's much more Latino and white than it is black now. So my question is, and I don't know if you have any information about that, but and I know a lot of corporations, that kid who won all that $1 billion lottery a few years ago in Altadena is buying up properties. Corporations are buying up properties that they're likely just going to flip. So my question is, do you know, have you heard anything about that? Any complaints about the fact that certain people are getting money? I know a lot of people didn't even know where Altadena was probably before the fires. But if you know Pasadena, you look north and you see it's so beautiful. It's just so beautiful up there. Even now it's even more beautiful, unfortunately, because now you go up there, you can see the mountains much more clearly because there are no homes. It's unbelievable. But anyway, thank you so much for taking my call. I like the fact that you are, I can see your passion. I wrote down your information. But thank you for taking my call. Just wanted to know if you've heard anything like that. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy.
Yeah, I'd say that initially we heard a lot of stories like that. And the one thing I'll do, because I don't mind being unpopular, to speak truth, is we could use a whole bunch more money in the Altadena community from black entertainment. Give up the dollars, y'all. And pushing our black community to take care of ourselves will never be a job we should stand down on, right? We need to stand up for that. But that said, I think there was also a lot of misinformation in the early months last year, right after the wildfires, where we were hearing that Altadena was all black. And that hasn't been true for some time. I've seen numbers of 12 to 15% in terms of black families in Altadena. And then in certain portions of Altadena, a larger percentage of Black people. So, block to block, west versus east, things like that. The other thing that's a real serious statistic that is good is that of the Black families who were in Altadena, it's estimated that over 80% were homeowners. So we're going to talk homeownership at NHS, right? Neighborhood Housing Services, whether it's in LA or over 200 other cities nationwide, there's a neighborhood housing service affiliate. We talk homeownership, and we're focused on, in this case, Black people owning where they live. Any opportunity to do that strengthens your balance sheet in life. And we talk balance sheets. We talk financial management and asset building, intergenerational wealth. Don't let my dear in your family or daddy, grandpa own up everything. And then you can't hold on to it when they pass on, or if they get into a health situation where they can't live in that house anymore, or if they're there and they're struggling to make ends meet. Our families should be able to surround us, right, with resources, talent, skills, and funding. And so we push it. We don't mind talking about it, figuring out with families how to access resources and maintain and build their wealth. There's nothing wrong with that. So in the face of disaster, Dara, what we want to say to people is it's okay to come back and build more wealth. It's okay to create and preserve legacy. If you are a tenant, focus on what is your legacy. Don't put the bling on as your primary focus. Don't drink it up on the weekends and at night at your happy hour. Focus on how much you put aside for yourself to build wealth. And wealth doesn't look like a bunch of gold rings. In the world I'm in, it looks like real estate. And it looks like owning my junk. And I think that people miss that in our community, and we can get stuck in some spaces that don't leverage our value. So while we heard those stories, Wendy, what I'd say is the truth of it is we weren't the dominant culture in Altadena, but it was a space in our region where Black families could buy and did not have redlining and restrictive covenants. That is key. And over the years, yes, other minorities have moved in some cases, and white folks. But for the Black folks that were in Altadena, we've been long-term. We were there for generations, and we should be proud of that.
Yeah, absolutely. We're talking this morning with Ms. Lori Gay, who is the President and Chief Executive Officer of Neighborhood Housing Services. You've been very kind. I've been misstating your name this morning as Neighborhood Housing Authority. I apologize for that. Neighborhood Housing Services. You can find out more about the work they're doing at nhslacounty.org. That's nhslacounty.org. You can give her a call at 213-381-2862. That's 213-381-2862. That's the Neighborhood Housing Services of Los Angeles. We're going to go to another caller this morning. Hassan is on line 3. Good morning, Hassan, and welcome to the front page.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, Bobo, Danny, Dara.
Good morning.
Ma'am, my question is the neighborhood housing available in San Bernardino and Riverside counties?
Absolutely. So we have affiliates in both counties that you just mentioned. And you, if you want to call the office, we can give you all that contact information, or I don't know if the station would take it, but we can definitely refer you to our partner agencies in San Bernardino and Riverside.
Wonderful.
Okay, thank you. That was my question.
Thanks,
'cause
Hassan.
No
problem. Thank you.
Thank you for calling,
Thank you.
Hassan. We're going to go to Ryan on line 1. Good morning, Ryan from Altadena. Welcome to the front page.
Good morning, Dara, Danny, Bobo, and Miss Lori. So I just want to thank you for your information that you're providing. I will definitely be reaching out to you. My parents lost their home in the Eaton Fires, and I
Sorry.
lost my place also.
So sorry.
So,
Daddy.
and my dad
Right.
dad passed away last July, so I will definitely be reaching out to your organization for help.
Thank you. Happy to serve you.
Wonderful. Miss Gay, for listeners who are, they know they probably need the assistance of an organization like yours, but they have some hesitance for whatever reason to reaching out to you. What would you say to them directly? As I said, sometimes, folks can especially in the wake of a crisis, we tend to go internal. I know I do. And we tend to retreat from the world. But if folks are having hesitance about reaching out for help, what would you say to those folks this morning?
Sure. I'd just say it's time to push past it. You're 1 year in. If you haven't made the strides you think you could make or you should have made, whatever that is, we're here to help. We start with people. We'll go with them from the beginning to the end. One of the things I didn't mention as we talk about services available, loans, grants, financial counseling, coaching, home buyer stuff. Also, it's project management for your construction, right? Having a guide who's willing and available to help manage your project. So your construction team, your architect, everybody works on time and on budget. What does it mean to get through plan check at the Department of Building and Safety? These are deep waters that can be treacherous, right? And post-disaster, you don't know what's going on and what's happening. Similarly, how do you make sure that your permanent financing situation is affordable so you don't rebuild and then lose your home? I mean, this is the stuff that goes on. So I think looking toward that with a team who's here to give and not take as a priority is your opportunity. And we're doing events in the area every month. We'll start this piece for renters specifically in early February, and just accessing what's available. It's too easy to sit on the sidelines and say nobody's coming and I missed it and I don't know what to do. That voice, those kinds of speeches don't work and they don't help. What does help is to access into the resource bases that teams of us have. And we're over 100 groups now that are in our coalition. NHS is just helping facilitate it and push it ahead, bring all our friends to the table. And there are other kinds of groups that are on the ground every day. Our office in the Altadena area right now is at the Collaboratory at 540 Woodbury Road. That is over 200 groups working to make sure we're a hub for community service. So I think it's a phenomenal time to rebuild. If rebuilding is not the key, then it's tap into the mission-driven real estate community that is a part of this coalition as well. A number of great realtors who are from the neighborhoods, not trying to hustle too much, right? None of that, but helping you figure out value. And so I think I mentioned earlier about being a developer and buying up land, selling to a trusted resource. There are several nonprofits that are buying in the area, just as needed. We don't tend to have the resources to buy up 50 or something, right? But we'll buy what we buy and keep that in community for our community. So I just think for people who are struggling, not sure, haven't stepped deeply into the waters of rebuild or sale or whatever they need to do, call us. We're here to serve, here to help, here to give, here to love. I started my New Year's commentary about the wildfires was a simple one. Hatred knows that love is the cure. We're here to love, to build, to bring joy, to bring peace to families.
Yeah.
And those messages are from the heart. So I hope people will access it and let us do our jobs.
Yeah. Lori Gave, the President and Chief Executive Officer of Neighborhood Housing Services. I want to thank you for being here with us this morning. We have about 60 seconds left. And one last question for you, Lori. You mentioned New Orleans and kind of wanting to avoid some of the pitfalls that happened in that area and that we're still seeing 20 years after the recovery there. If recovery in Altadena is done right, what does housing stability look like, let's say 5 years from now, and what does it take to get there? I know that's a lot to answer in 60 to 90 seconds, but if you can try, we would appreciate it this morning.
Yeah, I'd say building fire resilient homes and businesses, educating our public about fire safety and other types of disaster related safety. We tend to put things off until something bad happens. Well, it did, and now we need to focus, right? But everyone who's trying to come back, being aware of how to make their home safe and keep it that way, their home or business. The other thing I'd say is proper insurance, adequate insurance. We're going to have to fight about that. Our state was depopulating, as they call it, insurance for at least over a decade. Insurers were leaving the state. We need them back. We need a California insurance authority that all of us can tap into. That's the state of California needs to do something, right? So that when these tragedies happen, we don't have to make it all personal. And we all need to team together and collaborate and do good and do no harm. I think those are the things that would make it better. We need federal government resources and private resources and local government. It all has to work together. And I think if we focus on that and use the mechanisms that have worked after every disaster nationwide, the things that work is what we need. And then we need to push the things that are not working down and to advocate against bad stuff, whether it's scams, not getting enough from FEMA and SBA, right? We pay our taxes for them to do a great job, not just a good job. So that kind of space, I think, is phenomenal. And then accessing the resources with our nonprofit service providers, I'll never not say that.
Yeah.
Because we're here to be available to the community so they get everything they need.
Yeah. Lori Gay, President and CEO of Neighborhood Housing Services. Thank you so much for being with us here on the front page this morning. Again, you can find out more about Neighborhood Housing Services at nhslacounty.org. That's nhslacounty.org. You can give them a call at 213-381-2862. That's 213-381-2862. And we appreciate you being here this morning. If you missed any of the show today, you can find past episodes online at kjlhradio.com/podcasts or on the KJLH app. You are listening to Radio Free 102.3 FM KJLH. Thank you for turning to the front page where our stories live and our voices lead. Stay tuned for the Steve Harvey Morning Show with Ade Lamar. I am Dara Starr Tucker. Until Monday, stay loud and stay lifted.
LA's most streamed